Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We're Baltimore positive. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. If you get a turkey in the oven, pumpkin pie, if you get the right kind of mashed potatoes, I'll come over. Just invite me. Ness at BaltimorePositive.com. I'm going to be inviting all of you out for Maryland Crab Cake. We're doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. It's all brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. I have Raven Scratch Offs, been a lucky batch. I'm going to have the candy canes to make my bag smell nice come December. Thank you, Roz and John Martin. And we're going to be doing the Crab Cake Tour to a bunch of new places. A place called Honey's in Halethorpe 2 weeks from Friday. We're also going to be back at Deep Pasquale's in Canton. Also setting something up with Gertrude's to get back with Dan Rodricks, get back to the BMA so I can get cultured in the arts and get somewhere near Johns Hopkins for something other than a surgery. And of course, our friends at GBMC, I want to thank them before I go into this. I have now heard from Luke Jones. I have heard from Greg, our listener. I have 10. One of them just happens to be, and I think he's part of like the nursing crew there. I'm trying to figure all this out. I'm trying to ship him some Cocos over there for helping save my life last week. So get screened, get your colonoscopy, listen to your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, your daughter, whoever's bothering you, your brother, maybe in this case. Or in this case, it's Luke Jones who he's on the cusp. He's not quite 45, but I'm watching out, watching out for your health, and we're watching out for the health of Lamar Jackson, right? So when I wrote my column this on Monday, we went through hamstring, right? Then it was knee, then it was ankle, now it's toe. And Jen said to me over dishes the other night, she's like, "Isn't that what got Deion Sanders turf toe?" And I'm like, "That's what got John Ogden." And I don't know. It's a joker's game when you're dealing with John Harbaugh and press conferences and the HIPAA violations and reports. But either way, they got to go play football on Thursday night, and Joe Burrow's coming, kind of off the shelf, and we're going to see what they got under the hood. This is an interesting game on Thursday night. I think for a lot of reasons for both the franchises, and I think as I had Dave Lapham on the show, who played the game for 10 years and played with Chris Collinsworth, who's off on Thursday night, thankfully for all of us. Um, and I think there's a point for Thanksgiving night when you're playing that game. You realize the whole world's watching. I mean, it's just really it's kind of a Super Bowl-y kind of night in America where everybody will be tuned into the game no matter what, because it's just kind of the thing to do.
Yeah, and you think about the typical Sunday night game, most people are doing what early the next morning, getting up for work, Black Friday
Falling asleep at
shopping, like
halftime or something, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that.
I mean, you have not that everyone's off on Black Friday, but that's become a more and more of a day where a lot of people are taking a long weekend, or some companies just flat out give them the night off. So, I mean, John Harbaugh even was cognizant of that when he was asked about playing on Thanksgiving. So, there's definitely a major spotlight. There's a spotlight on this football team in a positive way in the sense that they've won five in a row. They're back in first place in the AFC North, but there's also a lot of intrigue in terms of what's Lamar Jackson look like this week? To your point, another week, another ailment. We don't need to look too far to understand what a toe injury can mean. And I will point out that he was back to practicing fully a day after he was listed there. I don't think this is a case of a serious turf toe like Joe Burrow, who missed the last 2 months recovering from a major toe, turf toe kind of injury. But it's certainly something that you just add to the list, right? And look, I do wonder, and whether each of these ailments individually have been that big of a deal, or is there one specific one that's really the one that's giving Lamar the most trouble, right? There can still be gamesmanship, right? There's still a sense of he's taking off the first practice of every week at this point. And if that's what he needs to do, that's what he needs to do, right? We're seeing on Sundays, and we're probably going to see on Thursday night, that he's not looking 100% physically. We've said that for a while now. So how much of it is, oh my goodness, is the toe a really big deal this week? Not necessarily, but whatever the injury that's lingering here, and for all we know, it could still be the hamstring, or it could be something else that they haven't listed. I don't
I
know,
have
but
just gone hockey, dude, and called it a lower
yeah,
body injury.
it's lower
That's
body,
all.
right? Exactly. So, but Lamar was asked about it. He was, he didn't hesitate. He said it happened in the first quarter. He said he got tackled on a play. Nothing nothing malicious about it. Just got tackled, and when you get tackled, weight of a defender comes down on your foot or your knee or your ankle or whatever it might be. And he said he just felt it. But the fact that he was back practicing the next day, he was running around on Tuesday during the open portion. He wasn't wasn't barely able to walk or anything extreme like that. So we've talked about this a lot. I've talked about this for years. When we go back to what was it, 2021, when the Ravens had that long list of just devastating injuries before the season even started, if you remember. And the following year, I talked about the idea of when players come back from injuries, there's healthy enough to play and there's healthy enough to thrive. Lamar Jackson's healthy enough to play, right? He's not out there not able to move at all. He doesn't look like he's 70 years old trying to walk around or run around out there. But is it peak Lamar in terms of healthy enough to thrive and look like generational dual threat, greatest rushing quarterback in NFL history, Lamar Jackson? I think I think we know the answer to that right now. Now, hopefully gets through Thursday night's game okay. He has this mini bye. You give him next Wednesday off, let's say hypothetically, and maybe you'll get a version of Lamar that's closer to 100%. I'm not going to say 100%. None of these guys are 100% as we're turning the calendar to December here in a few days. But we've talked about it. When you're having lower body injuries, to use your descriptor there, whatever is plaguing him the most out of those various ailments, it's tough to really think that he's going to heal up to a degree that you're not going to have some concern about it, that you're not going to have at least a little bit of limitation with it. But that said, all of that said, this team's won 5 in a row, and they're going up against the Bengals team that has been historically terrible defensively. I mean, Aaron Schatz just saw his latest DVOA column, and the Bengals are on track to be the worst DVOA defense that they've tracked over 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever the database goes back to.
By the
And
way, you just got Aaron Schatz invited on the show, so you give
there
me
you
the
go.
best ideas.
But they're not going to have Trey Hendrickson, and once again, and that's a bad defense. So even if Lamar is not 100%, you'd still like to be able to move the ball, and that was my source, and I think everyone's source of frustration coming out of the Jets game, that you had a Jets defense that was not very good, and then traded away Sauce Gardner, and then traded away Quinnen Williams, and yet they still struggled. So with that being
And you needed a
said,
peanut punch, right? I
right,
mean, literally,
sure,
yeah.
yep, for that to not be a very, very interesting, scary last 6 minutes of the ball game, no question. So that's where you look at this thing and say, even if Lamar's not going to run a whole lot, and I don't expect that we're going to see him run a whole lot because we haven't seen him run a whole lot since the hamstring injury, but you still have Derrick Henry, you still have Zay Flowers, you still have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Rashad Bateman could be back on Thursday night. He's practicing right
What
now.
about
We'll see.
Keaton Mitchell? What about Justice Hill? What about
Yeah, I
what
mean,
about the other? What about the just the other parts of this thing? And again, we're going to go back to the offensive line, aren't we? I mean, is
sure.
that really
No,
that's
of
where we're going to
course.
wind up, right?
Of
I mean, that's where
course.
that's where
But,
this
but
is going to end.
because going back to what I said about Lamar, if you're trying to keep Lamar as healthy as he can be at this point in time, whatever that percentage is, right? Arbitrarily saying, 90, 95%, 90%, 85%, whatever it is, right? I don't think it's any less than that, or you start to get into a situation where a guy just can't play. But if you want to keep him at least in that territory, then yeah, it comes back to your offensive line. And not that this Bengals pass rush scares you really in any way without Trey Hendrickson, who's been out now for quite a while and is not going to play Thursday night. But, all it takes is one play. But you mentioned Keaton Mitchell. He's someone that we've seen have some success getting to the perimeter. And when you look at how the Ravens have had their issues running between the tackles consistently, and we haven't seen peak performance, peak production, I think is the best term, not necessarily performance, because that implies that Derrick Henry is this diminished version of himself. And I don't know, is he a small percentage less than what he was last year? Maybe, right? But the offensive line's the overwhelming variable here when we're talking about this. So yeah, I want to see Keaton Mitchell get some more touches, and he's been he's been a nice change of pace for them. He's been someone who's been able to get some yardage for them when they run on the perimeter. So you're kind of doing whatever you need to do, right? I mean, is this going to be a game where they have to do that, in order to win? You'd like to be able to score points against the Bengals. If you can't score points against the Bengals and you have another first half against them like you did against the Jets, or go back to the Vikings game, or the Browns, then I mean, all bets are just off at that point in time. So we're going to see. I don't going into the Jets game, I had this expectation that we'd see the offense look better, and that didn't really happen. So on a short week and Lamar not being 100%, and knowing what this offensive line has been or has not been, you continue to go back to having some doubts at this point in time.
Also get a cold weather game.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah, no question. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm just, here's where I am on the defensive thing, right? You can stink all the way down the field and get a peanut punch or get a sack and force a field goal, and they can miss a field goal, or, you can get a turnover, a peanut punch, I guess is the turnover, and you can survive, like that. And the Bengals are going to try to survive that way, right? Because they're going to probably get pushed around because they just do in a general sense. I would think that the offense should, at the end of the night, have some yardage and some markers to say they had some success. I think the Ravens will move the ball in the cold. Now, Derrick Henry had a fumbling problem in September we don't talk about anymore, probably because he manned up and said he had a problem, right? But like the turnover thing, problematic, because you can drive your ass down on the Bengals, and then Mark Andrews, the ball hits off between the 8 and the 9 and goes up in the air, and somebody comes down with the ball. I mean, lucky. I mean, as Marvin always said, the ball bounces funny. That's why we don't bet on it. So for me, I have no doubt that the Bengals will be struggling offensively to some degree because they don't have their best weapons. But I also have some feeling that Joe Burrow knows what he's doing, and they'll find some semblance of a running game, because most teams do against the Ravens a little bit to make it interesting, and they're getting down in distances to try to shorten the game a little bit. I feel like the Bengals will have the ability to do that. I don't know, man. I see this as a closer game because of the division part of this, because of Joe Burrow coming back, because of Lamar's gimp. I don't, I always worry that this is the one where, like, 3 turnovers by the Ravens, they lose. Bengals turn the ball over 2 or 3 times, the Ravens can win by 28 points, as I see it. But I do think cold night, Lamar not having the wheels, everybody's breath, they're feeling that cold air in their chest a little bit more than you do. Fans will be a little more muted, I'm sure, just in a general sense. It's Thanksgiving night. Having energy at 11 o'clock on Thanksgiving night's hard for everybody. So I'm worried about this. I'm worried about them a little. They'd show me a lot, and they usually win games like this at home. So on pedigree, on all of that, if you gave me $1 and said I had to bet it, I guess I would think the Ravens will succeed here, but I do worry about mistakes in a game like this.
Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, let's face it. We saw how the Jets game played out. I have more concerns about the Bengals than I did the Jets, just because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, right? And even throw Chase Brown in there. I think Chase Brown's going to be really key for the Bengals. I think. Look, we don't know what Joe Burrow is going to really look like. Let's call a spade here. We're talking about someone who hasn't played a football game in over 2 months. We're talking about someone who's back on an accelerated timeline from a toe injury.
And by the way, one of the reasons Joe Flacco looked so amazing in the beginning was he had 2 amazing wide receivers.
Yeah, no question.
I mean, it's like playing in a Pro Bowl.
I mean, that's a Bengals offensive line that has played better than it did early in the season, but it's still not a good offensive line, right? I think with Burrow, look, even at his best, he's not someone who's taken off and running, but he's still someone who's moving around in the pocket to get the proper throwing lane, to get the right arm angle, whatever it might be. And that's where we don't know. And that's where I think there's still unknown, even for the Bengals coaching staff, to try to figure out exactly what he looks like. And that's where the Ravens pass rush needs to come up big, right? You need Draymond Jones and Mike Green and Travis Jones to not necessarily hit him 20 times or sack him 5, 6 times, but at least make him uncomfortable that he has to move around. And then that's when you question, how is that toe going to feel, especially on a cold night, right? So I think he's going to want to get the ball out quickly. That's where, not that Jamar Chase is neutralized, but hypothetically, you're thinking, okay, maybe it's not going to be the over the top 50-yard pass over your heads that they were able to do against the Ravens a couple different times last year. I mean, it's kind of basically what retired Marcus Williams as a Raven, right? I mean, what the Bengals did against them last year. But I think when you look at what the Jets did with Breece Hall as a receiver out of the backfield, I think that's where Chase Brown becomes a little more interesting in terms of, do they try to get some of the Ravens linebackers isolated in space? Kyle Hamilton, who is practicing, the fact that he's practicing makes me believe that he's going to at least try to give it a go on Thursday night. But how's that ankle going to feel? Are you going to have a less than 100% version of Kyle Hamilton? It wasn't a catastrophic ankle injury. Go back and watch the replay. He turned it, right? He turned his ankle, rolled his ankle a little bit, trying to make a tackle. That said, you're talking about it only being 4 days after that happening. So is he going to be 100%? Is he going to feel great in that cold weather where it's going to be in the 30s, right? So, but I think if you're the Bengals, you're trying to get the ball to Chase Brown and obviously Jamar Chase as much as you possibly can. You want to try to have as much of a run game as you can have, and the Bengals have been better running the football the last 6 weeks compared to where they were early in the season. Even with Burrow before he got hurt, I mean, they weren't running the ball at all. So that's going to be key for them because, I mean, if I'm Zach Taylor and you've made this organization decision that, okay, Burrow's healthy enough to play. We know, our season's shot. This is mainly about pride and him wanting to get out there and play. And you've got a chance to mess up a division opponent on Thursday night, just like they're going to have a chance to do the same against the Ravens a couple weeks from now, right? I mean, as they're going to play them twice in 3 weeks. But at the same time, I'm guessing they're not going into this game wanting Joe Burrow to throw 45 or 50 times. And we know that happens quite frequently. That's happened frequently when he's played the Ravens even in the past. So I think that's what's going to be really key. I think Chase Brown's so key in this football game. But to go back to your point about the turnovers, the one thing I will say about this Ravens offense, Cleveland game aside, even as they've scuffled, right, that they haven't been as consistent. And really, we haven't seen them truly fire on all cylinders. You have to go back to the first 3.5 quarters of the Buffalo game. I mean, that's how long it's been where it's looked like that greatest show on earth kind of offense where they're just completely bludgeoning teams, right? Where they're just embarrassing
Well,
them.
we're trying to find a reason to believe, right?
Right.
And I would even think on the national stage, 8 o'clock at night, everybody's watching. West Coast, they're just getting dinner. East Coast, they're on their second eggnog and, into another, the whipped cream and the pumpkin pie and whatnot, that you want to look like a playoff team. You know what I mean? And I don't know that needs to be dominant or that some facet of this.
Yeah. Well,
either
I think the defense has looked that way at least.
Yeah, but I mean against JJ against bad quarterback.
I'll push back on what you said. They've looked like a playoff team. Have they looked like a Super Bowl contender? That's where I think the rub is. I mean, let's face it, Nestor. I mean, the playoff team threshold is 14 out of 32 teams make the playoffs. Have they looked like one of the best 14 teams in the NFL the last 5 weeks? I'll give them that. Right? I mean, there aren't a lot of great teams around the league.
By the way, there was a stat with the Jets that I want to throw in that we haven't talked about at all, which is Thanksgiving week and they don't have a turnover. Like, that's how you're an awful team. And to me,
interception, yeah.
With the Ravens, like picking the ball off, peanutting the ball out at the 2-yard line after you dripped for 60, 70, 80 yards, whatever it is, that's how you turn games where, or make them kick a field goal, make them kick 3 field goals, right? Like whatever that part of the game is for them, finishing drives, obviously offensively, you and I talking about like from the day they drafted Lamar, we thought that's the X factor. Once they get inside the 10-yard line, you're not going to have a hat-on helmet to be able to stop this in that way. It's going to
Right.
be too tricky, and it's not tricky at all. And to your point, the offensive linemen don't move people. So I don't know how it's going to look. Um, Not 99 Rams, but just look effective enough to be in second and two, second and three once in a while. That first down measurement that I
Yeah.
always give to say, what are they doing on first down and is it effective? And sometimes it isn't because the offensive line just isn't winning.
Yeah, well, but I'd also say, I mean, go back and look at the first half of that Jets game. They had productive plays on first down. They didn't do well in second and third and short, right? I mean, they've had their issues with short yardage situations as well. I mean, really, you look at the offense, and this is very simplistic, but it's not because it's so important. They're 30th in red zone offense right now. Now, they're getting into the red zone plenty, right? I mean, they're because it's not as though they're scoring 10 points a game, right? They're still managing. I mean, even as unimpressive as the Jets game was, they scored 23 points in that game. I mean, that's not great, but it's not like worst in the NFL kind of offense either. So they're still moving the ball. It's just in those situations they just have not been good enough. But one point I kind of was in the middle of. I just want to make sure I complete it. The one thing I will say about this offense, because we were talking about turnovers, right? Cleveland game aside, they have still they have managed to protect the ball pretty well here over the last, go back since the bye, right? I mean, it's not as though they've had a ton of turnovers.
Dude, if
Lamar,
Lamar goes to the Hall of Fame, that would be one of my
one of the
speeches.
biggest things, he's taken care of the ball so
Yeah,
well
I
in his
mean,
career. Yeah,
especially with the mesh point of the
sure,
RPO, that I don't see a lot of that, enough of that to think that they're tricky dicky with the ball so much. I mean, a lot more of it's about snaps. It's a lot
sure.
more of it's about shotgun and cold weather and where's the snap coming from? Those are the kinds of problems that I've seen them have. But Lamar taking care of the football, I mean, he's made the most responsible quarterback I've seen this side of maybe Tom Brady.
I mean, think about it, Nestor. And look, I understand earlier in his career he didn't throw the ball as frequently from a volume standpoint, but you're talking about someone his last four seasons, seven interceptions, four interceptions, three interceptions. I mean, and yes, in this day and age, compared to 30 years ago or certainly 50 years ago, quarterbacks don't throw as many interceptions, generally speaking, as the days of Dan Marino and certainly the days of Johnny Unitas, right? I mean, so it is a different game in that way. But yeah, he takes care of the football, and that's one thing that, as frustrating as last Sunday was, I mean, that was we talked about it. I mean, Marlon Humphrey's forced fumble there. I mean, Jets are getting ready to make that what a 3-point game at that point in time, and who knows what's going to happen in the last 6 minutes
Well, the
there. Because
field felt like it tilted. They were down in
sure,
the 5-yard line,
sure,
They were
sure.
getting their ass kicked. They were moving backwards as a defense. That's not what you want to see late in the game.
Yeah, well, and I mean, obviously, a defense they're not going to pitch shutouts every week, and yeah, they're going to have. I We're going to see if Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow because there's a possibility that we're going to see such a diminished version of him that you're just going to say, why are they putting him out there? I mean, that's entirely possible here.
Better
Especially,
make sure Joe Flacco doesn't come off the bench and eat turkey
well,
on you.
yeah, of course. Although I think part of their problem the last couple of weeks has also been I don't think his shoulder's right because he hasn't had the same zip on the football. But regardless, you're stepping up in weight class here in terms of quarterback, right? This is a different animal than no disrespect, but Tyrod Taylor is a backup quarterback, and obviously the Browns had two rookies, and the Vikings had a guy who's essentially a rookie, and J.J. McCarthy, who could end up, I guess he's in concussion protocol now. Point is, they haven't faced a murderer's row of quarterbacks. They're going to have a different test Thursday night. So if this defense, which has played so much better, I mean, there's regardless of the schedule or the level of competition. We're talking about a defense that the first 5 games of the season was the worst in Ravens history. I mean, that's how horrible it had been. So regardless of, okay, you're not facing Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Jared Goff, and even Matthew Stafford, who's probably going to be MVP this year, but you're still facing NFL offenses and you're looking much, much better these next few weeks now. Hey, you're going to see Joe Burrow. You're going to see Aaron Rodgers. You're going to see Burrow again with a couple hypothetically with a couple starts under his belt, where the rust is going to be knocked off. You're going to face Drake May, who's another guy that's at least in that MVP conversation right now. You're going to see Jordan Love in Green Bay in Week 17. So this defense is going to have a
And Josh
chance.
Jacobs, if he can get back up and run.
Sure, sure. Well, but I'm specifically talking about quarterbacks. But you're going to have your chance here to leave no doubt about just how good you are as a defense. I mean, this is a good defense now. It's become a good defense. Is it great? That's where it's like, okay, let's pump
Well,
the
they
brakes.
added a professional safety that allowed their best player to come and be their best player. The middle linebackers playing somewhat
better.
up to his salary.
Yeah.
You've got young players in Starks and Wiggins that are getting on the field, making some level of impact. Buchanan as well, and then you add a pass rusher. So your wish was, our wish was, hey, they need help on the back end. They got it, and as I wrote in my column this week. I mean, you get it in the fall and it's available in January. I mean, I'm not going to bitch about not having it in the spring. I mean, it's like, hey, if the Orioles are in the pennant race and in August they really have a number one and they go and they're in the pennant race, I'm not going to be down on what they do or don't do in the next 12 weeks because in the end, they're as assembled an ascending team. By both of our measurements, they've won 5 games in a row.
Their defense is
right.
Yeah, their defense is leading the way there. Now, the offense being ascending, that's well,
the offense has a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a Hall of Fame running back, a Hall of Fame quarterback. Let's go through this. And they were 1-5 a month ago, and now they're in a position to have primetime lights, division games, big boy ball games, big crowds, cold weather, New England, Green Bay. Here we go. They're going to be on prime time. They're going to get flexed in the prime time with the New England game 3 weeks from now. So, they're going to have to go pull their pants up, and all these games are going to be like a playoff game. They need to go 4-2. Really? I mean, let's be sensible. And it depends on what kind of 4-2, and it depends on what the Steelers do.
Yeah. Is that 4-2, 2 wins against the Steelers? Then I mean they've got it made. Then I mean that scenario is great. But if it's 4-2 and they lose those 2 to the Steelers, then it's dicey.
If it's 6-0, they might be the 3 seed or the 2 seed based on who knows, right?
I mean, there's a path for them to be the 3 seed unless. I mean, you're having to talk about Denver and New England really, really scuffling big time here.
Yeah, you're playing,
and even Indy.
You're playing for the division, and you're playing against the Steelers at this point, and that's okay. I mean, that's okay in a down year where everybody was hurt in week 3 and you went through a buzzsaw schedule and you sucked and your defense wasn't any good and you didn't have your pieces together. But you traded for Lohi Gilman and you added Draymond and emerging players emerge and your quarterback found some health and they found the running game at some point. This is that part in the novel where that has to happen.
Sure. But then you'll get to the part of if it does, you'll get to the part of the novel where it's like, okay, what are you doing in January then? And that's where we go back to the concerns about the offensive line, the concerns about the health of Lamar Jackson, the concerns about this offense in the red zone and situationally short yardage. But because I'm not throwing out what the standard was at the beginning of the year. I mean, just because you go 1-5 and then you rebound to make the playoffs, I'm not saying that that's going to make it a successful season. I mean, if you get bounced,
we're at Super Bowl or bust about 10 weeks ago.
So that right, and that's where I look at this, and I'm still kind of trying to gauge it through the same lens because otherwise, so then what'd you do here? I mean, you started 1-5 because
you fought valiantly to lose at home to the Chiefs on January 10th or whatever,
which is very much a scenario that of as far as hosting the Chiefs or the Bills in the first round, that's absolutely possible at this point in time. I mean, you could probably do the simulations of all the different outcomes, and you'll find quite a few that would involve something like that. So we're going to see how it plays out. But
the only way it plays out is winning these games, right?
Yeah, period. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're still in that mode. I mean, yes, you're 6-5. Yes, they do have some margin for error. They're not truly in playoff mode because the Bengals are in playoff mode at this point in time, right? I mean, not that I think that they're winning their last 6 in a row, but that's what they have to do to have any shot whatsoever in any way.
This is why I fear them to some degree, because Burrow could just say, look, I'm not going to go out there and embarrass myself and gimp around and lose another game. Yeah. Like, it feels to me like hey, we win a game or two or three, this thing changes a little bit and we start kicking the Ravens around, give me the ball. And that seems like who he is with the cigar smoking, like the whole deal. But like the fact that he's getting off the plane ready to play and I don't think he wants to go out there and look foolish on
Sure.
Thanksgiving night. And I think it would have been very easy for him to say, I'm not ready. It's not good enough. I'm not going out there. This Roger Dorn, right? I'm not going out there
Right.
behind this with this group right now. Joe, you go get him. Um, no, no, no. I mean, that's where my concern is that Joe Burrow is elite for real.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, we don't know what he's going to look like. I think there's very legitimate intrigue there. I think if you're Cincinnati, there has to be some concern there. Not necessarily even that he's going to have this horrible re-injury of the toe itself, but you also know that if you can't move around in the pocket to the degree that you need to, then that leaves you exposed to another injury, right? The idea of, where you get completely crushed in the pocket or you hurt something else as you're trying to protect yourself. Who knows, right? I mean, in the same way we've talked about this offensive line, knowing that Lamar isn't a statue back there by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly isn't normal Lamar Jackson doing the things that he does with his legs at a level that we've never seen any a quarterback do it. So
And that is interesting that it's either on or off for Lamar. You know what I mean? Like I guess we never gauged it like that. Like if he can't go all the way, he might as well be, he's not even Josh Allen. He's not another quarterback. He's
oh,
an immobile quarterback because he doesn't have breakaway speed. So therefore he shouldn't even attempt it because he can't. And,
I mean,
and that's the probably the headspace of having a speed horse only run at three quarters. There's no such thing, and that's probably the incredible frustration for him at this point that he can't, and
um,
therefore probably shouldn't.
I don't know if I agree with that entirely. I mean, it's not a pass fail. He's still more mobile than a lot of quarterbacks,
But I don't
even
think
at,
he's
in
going to
his.
be able to
But
run away from 4-3 linebackers, right?
yeah, but how many 4-3 linebackers are actually in the league, right? Not he can still outrun some people. That the difference is he's not able to outrun everybody right now, right? And that's there's a difference. There totally is. And so I don't want to overstate it. At the same time, where is the breaking point here in terms of I mean, is he healthy enough to play right now? Sure. Is he healthy enough to thrive in the peak optimal Lamar Jackson style of play that is so unique and frankly, when he's at his best, almost impossible to stop? Uh, I think he pretty clearly isn't anywhere close to that. So yeah, it is tough in looking at this. And that's where it does become more magnified how the offensive line's going to play, how they can run the ball with Derrick Henry in a more conventional way or Keaton Mitchell with a more conventional way. I want to see this passing game get back on track. I mean, this passing game, what do they have right now? Zay Flowers, and that's about it, right? I mean, it's messy. It's really messy. And I think there's a way for them to get that going in a more consistent way, even acknowledging Lamar's physical limitations right now. But man, they've got to get that timing down. I mean, there are plays to be had. I mean, go back and look at that DeAndre Hopkins throw to the end zone. I mean, Hopkins put a great move on the guy, had a step, and
Dude,
Lamar
he's
just
a weapon, man.
Lamar overthrew him. I mean, he's a weapon, but he's a weapon in a more limited way right now. I think if you saw DeAndre Hopkins, and look, this isn't me saying that he shouldn't be more involved because yeah, I'd like to see him get targeted a few more times, but I think you would find that there are a lot of reps where he's not open, and he's older, but at the same time, you go back to once upon a time. Remember, there were conversations that needed to be had with Joe Flacco when it came to Anquan Bolden, where it said, look, Anquan is always open, even when he's not open, because he can make 50-50
Lamar
catches.
doesn't like throwing the ball. Like we go back to his
So, well,
responsibility. You're not
yeah,
open, dude. I'm not going there.
I
I'm
mean,
going to
there's
find I why would I throw it to you and have a
he's
contested catch when Andrews is breaking free? You
well,
know what I mean? Like in the way
there's
Lamar
one
would process
I
things.
agree. Although I would say there have been plenty of times in his career he's thrown it to Mark Andrews who wasn't open and made a catch. But he has 8 years of history with Mark Andrews, right? Whereas DeAndre Hopkins, it's year one. So point is, they need to find more across the board with their passing game, and we've talked a lot about their ability to run the ball and be able to run it consistently. So, we're going to see how it plays out. This is a Bengals team that I I think you're going to get their best shot, right? Whatever that is in 2025. I mean, they're a bad football team. They've been a bad football team. Their defense has nothing to do with Joe Burrow, and their defense is awful. So, yeah, in a perfect world, you'd see the Ravens hang 40 on them, and you'd feel good about your offense, and Lamar looks a little bit better, moving around maybe a
That
little bit
means
better.
finishing drives. Kick
Sure,
3 or 4 field goals, and it's 24 to
sure,
16 in the fourth
sure.
quarter
So,
somehow, right?
so that's what you're looking at, as far as offense, finish drives, be more efficient in the red zone. We've been saying that every week, and we're going to continue to say that because that's how important it is. And defensively, you can't let Jamar Chase or Chase Brown wreck the game for you because look, Joe Burrow is going to be some limited version of himself, right? I won't buy for a second that he's going to be 100%, right? You don't come back from what was deemed to be a 3-month minimum injury in what's it been? 9 weeks or 10 weeks, whatever it's been.
I'm going to
Uh,
rub him down for deer antler spray.
yeah, right, right. So, but that doesn't mean he can't make plays if you don't get after the quarterback and, stop the run and not let Jamar Chase get over the top on you and tackle. You need to tackle, right? I mean, both these teams, I mean, the Bengals have been a poor tackling team this year, and I think that's probably going to lead to their demise on Thursday night, even if they make some stops here and there. They're going to miss a couple tackles, and Derrick Henry's going to go for 40 at some point in time, or Keaton Mitchell's going to take one to the house, or Zay Flowers will, wiggle free from a tackle and he's gone, right? Something like that will happen that, in my mind, will probably be the difference in the game and will allow the Ravens to gain full control, or semi, not full maybe, but most, kind of like how the Jets game was, whatever.
When the
But
Jets went on fourth,
yeah, I mean, something like, and then the Bengals will do something that is bungles,
they're
right? I
one
mean,
letter away,
yeah,
always one letter
exactly.
away.
So, but Lamar Jackson, how healthy does he look? And we haven't talked about it a whole lot, but Kyle Hamilton, is he going to be 100%? Right now, and I'll believe you with this final point, because this is probably as close as I get to a hot take. As the Ravens are presently constructed and acknowledging Lamar Jackson is not 100%, I think Kyle Hamilton might be the most valuable player on this football team right now. When Lamar is 100% and your offense is operating in a more Lamar Jackson led Ravens kind of way, there's no question, right? I mean, you're talking about the guy who might be the best player on the planet. But right now, for what they need right now in order to win football games, I think Kyle Hamilton might be a little more valuable than Lamar Jackson even is right now, because if he's not right on Thursday night, then game one, we're going to see how this goes, because that's a much bigger question for your defense than knowing just how important he has been.
Well, it talks about 14 up at the line of scrimmage and impacting
Sure.
key plays,
So many
third
different
down
ways.
plays, blowing a play up, creating something that leads to a turnover, leads to a sack, leads to, a big play. Luke Jones is a big play. Thanksgiving's always a big play in the Jones household, so I hope you have a great Thanksgiving,
You too.
family, nieces, all that stuff. I am immersed in football all day long, as well as turkey and some pumpkin pie as well. So we hope everybody pulls that together. My thanks to my friends at GBMC for helping me identify potential colon cancer, stopped, polyp removed, all good. My thanks to GBMC. So I want to continue to give them a shout out and everybody there for helping us out through the holiday. Black Friday ahead, and then the Maryland Crab Cake Tour presented by the Maryland Lottery. I'll have Raven scratch-offs to give away. We're going to be at Deep Pasquale's. We are going to be at Honey's in Halethorpe. They have an Asian menu over there. I'm looking forward to that. Some interesting takes on some crab cakes, so that's going to be cool through the holidays. Also, we're going to get to Costas and Dundalk. Gina Shock text me back, and if her text could read out loud, I could hear it in her beautiful Dundalk voice. And John Allen is speaking to me now after his big Black Friday event in Hagerstown. And we're all going over to Dundalk the last week of the week before Christmas, about 17th or 18th. I'm working on a date, and we're going to do a big thing over there. So come on out. We're going to love Ed Lauer all up, who's got a new heart, and we're going to wish him a Merry Christmas as well. So big things going on. I'm thankful. He's thankful. We're thankful. We'll be a lot more thankful on Friday morning if the Ravens make it 6 in a row. I'm Nestor. He's Luke. We're WNST AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive.